All right, let's talk a little politics, and let's begin in New Jersey. That's where Governor Christie's poll numbers continuing to fall. But just how much they're falling is the eyebrow raiser here. Guess who's more popular? I'll give you a clue. He's been indicted by the feds, and if you've listened to the beginning of this program, I know that doesn't limit it down, so I'll help you out. Look at the numbers here. Bob Menendez is more popular than Chris Christie, and it's not a nail-biter here. In the race to the bottom, Christie's poll numbers, they've been falling since Bridgegate, and they've been falling faster ever since. And if you think once he gets by this scandal, he might be all right, we got one more thing to pile on that always ticks off the public. Chris Christie spending $85 grand of public tax dollars here to entertain people in luxury boxes at sporting events. We should note the state Republican Party ended up reimbursing the state, but this whole thing, it runs counter to the regular guy image that Christie is trying to project, and also it lends itself to some really easy caricatures and headlines on what he's buying at the concession stand for $85 grand.
Well, there's another part of that report, too, because he reimbursed for expenses at supermarkets. He went to Wegmans and averaged $1,400 a trip to Wegmans. I got to hang out at Christie's house. What kind of food is he getting for $1,400 every time he...
Again, at Wegmans, you know?
Right. You couldn't spend that at Whole Foods. Yeah. Well, maybe you could.
But
this is the beginning of the end for Chris Christie.
You think
being
so?
Being at 35%. I know he just got reelected. He has a little bit of time to rehabilitate himself, and he's an incumbent. But, I mean, 35%, as Janie will tell you, that's really, really low. And, you know, it's still somewhat of a swing state. Some would say, you know, it's obviously more Democratic in terms of its registration and whatnot, even though they elected Todd Whitman and Christie. But come on, I mean, it's these types of things that really cause for like a realigning election to really allow the other party
I know he's
to sweep
say
in.
He's been like this since jump. He's always been this way. But is there an element, Jonathan, that he forgot his roots and that if he was a regular Jersey guy, first of all, a Cowboy fan who's living in the luxury box with Jerry Jones and that horrifically embarrassing jumping up and down, and then some of the other things that he's done to make himself more national than local. There's that tragic scene here. No one
he's the one in orange, by the way.
Yes, I know. So, but my point is, did he forget where he came from, or has this always been his MO?
This has always been his MO. He's the type of guy that's been a big shot, tough guy that, you know, likes the rah-rah, and, you know, he came in on that note, and a lot of people really liked him, and a lot of, you know, again, there was a scandal with Corzine and whatnot. He came in after that, and, like, you know, he was able to use that brand to his advantage, but he got too big for his britches. It all got caught up to him, and now he's paying the price for it as all this stuff comes out.
I'll give you a hypothetical, Dominic. Let's say Bridgegate doesn't spin out more than Bridget Kelly, Waldstein, and the rest of the crew. Okay, Baroni and the rest. Let's say it doesn't.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay, but
good luck with that.
Okay, but let's say it doesn't get up to his office.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Is there any recipe where he can recover, because he obviously still fancies himself that 16's his shot, that he can be relevant, not win, but be relevant in the campaign and be taken seriously?
Absolutely not. And
don't hesitate. Yeah.
I told you guys that, you know, looking at the merits, if he goes to Iowa or New Hampshire and tells grandma shut up and sit down, it's a wrap, Richard. It's over. His tough guy image was only, I told you he was a bad Rudy Giuliani. And he's going out just the way Giuliani did. 9/11, I hate to say it, but as we all know, saved Rudy Giuliani. The day before, Rudy Giuliani could not have been elected dog catcher in New York City. That's exactly what we're looking at with Chris Christie.
That's the one thing that can save him. Another Sandy, another major crisis, another moment where the executive steps in and gets stuff done and brings relief and crosses aisles, and maybe that could help buoy his numbers. But you really can't go banking on a major catastrophe just when you need one.
Can you remember a more unbelievable fall from grace that didn't include the other woman or something else? I mean, this has been not even a slow-moving train wreck. I mean, one thing after the other. He went from being, you know, everybody's darling in terms of at least the high donor guys to now, what's he still doing in this thing? It's amazing how fast it's gone.
Yeah, and it's amazing how mind-boggling it is that they would shut down the bridge the first day of the school year in the September. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. So that he could raise, you know, not only beat Bono by 40 points, but beat her by 50 points. You know, the whole thing is mind-boggling. And to Dominic's point, you look at the New Hampshire polls, he is polling behind Donald Trump, when you are polling behind Donald Trump in New Hampshire, which is his must-win state, because he's not going to win Iowa, he's got to win New Hampshire to make it to South Carolina. You're dead in the water. I mean, there's no way out of this thing. He's got to pull himself out and hopefully, as Jonathan mentioned, try some way to resurrect himself in New Jersey. His constituents do not like him. He's got a lot of work to do there.
And it's been all self-inflicted. And even if he didn't say shut down the bridge, it was his people who did, and certainly a reflection on at least the culture that he had created around Trenton. All right, now let's move across the river, if you will, to New York City here, and specifically Mayor de Blasio as he keeps moving about the country. De Blasio, he's going to D.C. and California this week as he once again takes his progressive push nationwide. He's taking heat for spending so much time trying to become the national voice on the left instead of focusing on New York. And the poll numbers are starting to show that New Yorkers aren't too happy about this. His approval rating is underwater, 44% approving, 52% disapproving, and more people than not say the city headed in the wrong direction under his leadership. Jonathan, I get everybody likes to be a big cheese here, but he hasn't been long enough in New York, it seems, to be, self-anointing him the national voice of the left, especially, there's a lot of stuff that he can do in the city, no?
There is, but he's able to do both. I mean, Mike Bloomberg was all over the country and the world doing things, on guns and climate change and everything. I actually disagree. I have no problem with de Blasio taking his brand to try to be the voice of the left nationally. I think it's important to have leaders that do those types of things, and being from the biggest city in the country, it's a good thing. It's an important thing. What I will say with respect to his poll numbers and all is that, I mean, a lot of that is just, perception and the public's perception with respect to public safety. I think if you didn't have some of the incidents that happened over the past year, I mean, his numbers would probably be significantly better than where they are now.
Well, to that point, because of the public safety issue.
But overall crime numbers are still very, very, very low.
I understand that, but the optics of it is, wait a minute, he can't be at Moore's Hospital when the officer was declared dead, like every other predecessor for every other cop killing, but yet he can be in New Hampshire or Iowa, or he can be in California or D.C. or wherever telling progressives what the national platform ought to be?
I mean, the mayor of the city of New York, I think, can multitask and do both, and he just put out his executive budget last week, which I thought was a very fair and good, equitable budget. There's a lot of things that needs to happen in the city of New York, and so, I mean, we'll see over time, but I mean, listen, he needs to sell it. There's no doubt about that, and his press shop needs to do a better job selling what he's doing both locally and nationally to everybody so that, his numbers could start to rise. But overall, in terms of his job performance, how he's doing as mayor, I would say he's doing a pretty good job. I would.
So explain the 44. Why he's so low here.
Because I think he's getting a lot of bad press because, A, he's had some press stumbles in terms of the PR that Jonathan was mentioning, and the people who had the knives out for de Blasio before he was ever elected have kept the knives out for him after he's been elected, and he's getting all the bad press for that. But I mean, Jonathan, you haven't gotten the memo. Unfortunately, de Blasio is not allowed to leave the city. He's not allowed to extend a national.
I'll let the professor.
He's not allowed to because there's a different standard than other mayors.
I've been pretty good and pretty patient listening to their spin. So I will let the professor go first. No, let the lady go first, and then I'll tell you the truth of why his poll numbers are so low. I defer to the lady.
Well, before he talks about the poll numbers, let me just say, yes, you can do two things. And you're right, Bloomberg did it, Giuliani ran for Senate, but you have to be present in New York City because you are one crisis away from being in huge trouble. One thing happens this summer as they release those prisoners from Rikers, as they decriminalize whatever they're going to decriminalize. You could say the safety numbers are pretty down. Guns are back up, and it is a big problem. He's not in budgeting for the police. It's a big problem for him. He's got to stay on the job. And perception is not just about PR. It's the perception of New Yorkers. He's telling Rolling Stone that people outside of New York know the great things he's done, but people in New York just don't understand. Who says that to their constituents? People in New York know what he's doing. He doesn't talk to the press locally. He doesn't do Q&As. There was a great piece in Newsday about the fact he hasn't done any of those. People know what's going on. That's why his poll numbers are low, although in his defense, by the way, they're up a bit. They were 39, now they're 44, so they're going in a different direction. But, he has got to take care of what's going on at home. You look at somebody like John Lindsay. He learned that very, very fast. You look at somebody, you look at everybody else who's gone and tried to do another job. You can't do it. You've got to do your job first.
To their point, you can walk and chew gum. It is the biggest city in the world, but isn't it a little early to be doing that in his first term?
Of course it's early, The truth of the matter is, and what I'm saying now, I will say to the mayor's face because I happen to like the guy. I've covered him for 30 years. Mr. Mayor, you have not really accomplished anything to be out on the road the way that you are. Universal pre-K, okay, but the governor had a role in that and the legislature. But he's been in office. I've covered mayors for the last 30 years that have done something when they go on the road. He has not, he's brand new to office, and his white support is almost non-existent, shaky with communities of color, the relationship with Sharpton, the relationship with the police, and you're lecturing the country about how great you are and that people in New York don't understand? I don't think so. If I can only repeat the conversations, and you know who they are, all the Democrats that are telling me privately they're going to primary him because that's how weak he is. It's the way he's perceived. It doesn't happen that you're going to primary a candidate, a Democrat against a Democrat. Now, maybe at the end of the day they won't do it, but the Scott Stringers, the Eric Adams, these guys are planning to knock him out and take him on. And remember, no offense, Richard, he's the lucky mayor. He barely won. I mean, he really wasn't supposed to win, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Don't tell him I said that.
Oh, no. I'm just thinking you're going to have an interesting next conversation here. All right, now, I want to take a look at national politics in the GOP field. And I want you to take a look at this because Jeannie mentioned it a little bit. Talk about, a food fight here. Look at the grouping at the top. Rand Paul, Scott Walker having razor-thin leads. And then look at, Andrew's best friend, Donald Trump. 5th place, Christie there, even below him. Is the best thing going for Democrats at the end of the day, Jeannie, Republicans?
It might be if you look at this game. No, this is a great picture for Jeb Bush. This is what this is. This is exactly what Jeb Bush wants and what he needs. He's out fundraising. He's out locking up his moderate support.
But have you found one Republican who says, "Oh, my Jeb Bush Republican that loves him"?
No, but that's why this is perfect for him. Exactly, because you don't need all that support. You need to win the largest number of votes. You don't need to win a majority. If it was a head-to-head, he'd be in big trouble, but he's not. But I'll tell you, I do think one of the most interesting candidates up there is Marco Rubio. I think Marco Rubio has had a really good, rollout so far. Do I think he's going to win? Absolutely not. But I think that those numbers are good.
I totally agree. I think it's Bush and Rubio, 2 Florida guys, just by chance.
Shocking.
And you're going to have a half a dozen other candidates getting in, Andrew. I mean, talk about, forget it, just a crowded field. Just a bunch of messages coming out simultaneously. I don't know how they break through the clutter.
And they're all going to pop to the top or close to the top after they roll out and get the initial attention, just like they all have so far in the process, just like they all did in 2012. They'll all have their moment in the sun. It'll be an enormously crowded debate platform.
Remember
and
Herman
I
Cain?
will pop popcorn and watch every minute of every one of those debates.
But isn't it a little curious that the bench for the Democrats is so weak?
There's a risk to it, but the problem
there's
is
a
over
heavyweight on
here.
that bench.
Tell me,
True.
and you
but
got
if she
It's almost as if she was an
collapses,
incumbent president. I mean, it's so
and
hard.
I think the rub is, look, you can look at Huckabee, for example. He's not going, but now all of a sudden he makes them talk about Social Security and Medicare, right? Mm-hmm. You look at Rand Paul. He makes them talk about what role we really should have or not have. You're going to have, it's either you're going to strengthen them coming out of a tough primary where they're going to find their sea legs as a party here for what their platform's going to be, or it's going to rip them apart. Immigration, another one, depending on who it is. So it's going to be fascinating for me if they can avoid killing each other in the middle of it and making the party either drag way to the right or whatever else. Then they'll be tougher in the general, but they might harm each other too much here before we even get there. All right. As I told you off the top here, we got late news here today regarding Deflategate. Penalties have just been announced within the hour. NFL throwing the book at Tom Brady and the Patriots. I'll tell you about the punishment and the fines, and yes, the suspension of this man. We'll be right back.